Hey everyone, welcome to week 25, day 5. This is the last day of this sacrifices week. So all throughout the week, I think we've been, working hard at trying to maintain a sense of the bigness of the picture, of the wholeness of our painting. So we painted Danny, we painted a street in Rome, painted some French fries, we painted my mother's house, and today I'm gonna go back to linen, like I said, because I did find some scrap linen pieces. And we're gonna see if I'm painting a little bit different. I think it's gonna feel a little bit different. It's gonna be a bit of a darker pick, but I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So let's see how that goes. Okay, let's get started. Now, yesterday's painting was actually a super cool painting for me because throughout the week, I am completely convinced that I want to sort of lean into this idea of wholeness. I really want this concept of trying to paint the bigness of things, the very essence of things, to try to dig in deep and understand the makeup of things, which sounds like something that takes a lifetime to try and understand, only to realize when we die that we failed at it tremendously, because it just feels like a Herculean act. But I've been noticing that I have a lot of connection when I try to go for those things, when I try to think about the fundamental, think about the essential. And the kind of cool thing is that I'm also very conscious of the sacrifices I'm doing. I do yearn when I'm making a painting, those moments where you can stop and really try to define kind of like little details within the painting. I do miss that. I do kind of feel that part of me is just naturally attracted to. But I don't know. I always feel that by the end of the painting, when I look at the painting, I'm like, I don't miss anything now. Like I miss it during the painting because it's almost like a reflex to try and go for those little things. It almost feels like an obligation. It just feels like the more elaborate side of painting, the more almost instructed side of painting would ask of you to go for those details, to be able to describe those details. I've heard people say, for example, that doing a block-in is easy, but finishing a painting, quote unquote, finishing a painting is actually very, very hard. That's where real mastery is. I actually don't agree. I don't agree at all with that statement. I really feel that one of the hardest things to do in a painting is doing a good block-in, is doing a good start. A good start is 1,000 times better than just a bad finish. I can totally say that. Now, the people that are talented enough to be able to maintain those ideas of wholeness while they are developing a painting, they are wonderful painters. I will never deny that. I will never fight that. That is just the truth. But to say that there is little value in a good block-in, I totally disagree. I actually favor good block-ins. For me, it's actually better, and I tell this to, people that attend my workshops. I much rather have them do 10 incredibly good starts than just labor over a painting for 10 days. To me, that pseudo commitment that is inherent to a 10 days of just kind of bashing your head against the wall with this painting and trying to push it forward, trying to will it forward, it doesn't make sense. I have a strong belief, and I always tell this to people, that the way to advance in a painting is not just by brute force, exerting this insane amount of strength and just pushing and pushing and pushing and powering through a painting. I don't think that that's true. There is merit to that. There is merit to all the inner strength that you have to have when you push so hard when you're painting. But I think there's a more organic, natural way of progressing if that's what you want to do. If you want to reach other developmental stages in your painting that don't have to do with just hammering yourself against that wall constantly. What I've always believed in, because I've seen it work, this is some people could say, well, this is anecdotal, but years of teaching and just doing it also myself, I've actually become conscious of this and I see it and I see results. So this is not like a take this little pill, it's actually going to make you better. No, because it actually entails a ton of work. So there's no tricks to this. There's no way to go around this. You're actually going to have to work super, super hard. But what I really believe is that you have to take your painting to a point where you feel confident with your painting, where you understand it. Our understanding of painting actually has limits. And those limits, with time kind of expand. That makes sense. The more we paint, the more we comprehend. The idea is that you take your painting as far as you can, as far as you know, and we do that consistently. So let's say you can only do a very nice block-in. So what I ask of people all the time is to be content with that. Not content as in, okay, this is very little and I'm just going to be happy with very little. No, to be genuinely happy with what you're doing. And I always ask people, if you can only get to that point, if those are the limits of your ability and knowledge, we celebrate that and we get to that point. But we're going to do it consistently. So instead of doing one blocking and saying, oh, I suck, I can only get this far, look at everyone else. Everyone else is doing eyelashes and highlights on the eye, and this is me just doing an eye socket. I am poor old eye socket lady, while every other idiot is just making eyelashes. No. If you're doing eye sockets, make the best and freaking most amazing eye sockets in the world. That's where you are at that moment, and you have to accept it and again celebrate it and say, I'm going to do the best freaking blocking of a head that anyone has ever seen, but I'm not only going to do one, and this is the cool part. This is the trick. You have to do them consistently. You have to do 30 of those. You have to do 40 of those. Instead of just saying, oh my God, I did a really good block-in for the first hour and a half in this painting, and now in the rest of the, if it's a 6-hour session, let's say, now for the rest of the session, I'm just going to step all over that really beautiful eye socket and just paint this horrid eye on top of it and just ruin everything that was beautiful about that initial stage of the painting. What I tell people is, okay, stop. And then, maybe change spots and do another one, start another one, and then maybe change spots and start another one. And people are always, well, when am I going to be able to do an eye? If I never try to do an eye, I'm never going to be able to paint an eye. And here's what I think. I think that you are going to be able to paint that eye even if you're not trying to paint it. This sounds so weird. This sounds so dumb. I remember reading somewhere, maybe some people can point me to where I read this, but I remember reading somewhere that when Sargent would paint glass, he would paint everything that is not glass. When asked about painting glass, he would say, I just paint everything that is not glass. And that was amazing. To paint the thing, you paint everything that's not the thing. It actually works really nicely because of the transparent nature of glass, but I always thought that was very Zen-like. So it's the same thing I believe in when we speak about maybe an eye. I don't know why we human beings think that something detailed, we always kind of equate it with being able to do a dumb eye. But anyways, I really think that the more attention we pay to everything that is not the eye, everything that is surrounding the eye, and if we do that consistently, now, here's the tough part. Again, I'm not talking about an afternoon of painting an eye socket. I'm not talking about 2 days of painting an eye socket. I'm talking about days and days and days of painting portraits, if that's what you're interested in, and just saying, I'm just going to do a very structured head with an eye socket. I'm not going to need the eye. I'm not going to feel this need to describe the eye. I'm just going to concentrate on where the eye is placed, all the shapes surrounding that eye. If you do that consistently, and you can say you did one painting that is very cool, you're back at your easel again, and you paint another head, and it's very solid, and it's a solid ass eye socket, and then you do that the next day and the next day and the next day, it is not going to be magic, but this eye is going to slowly, eventually going to appear. The reason it does is because we are very, very slowly, almost like nature, the way like a river can take a jagged rock, and just by being a very gentle stream, it'll make that rock softer and softer and softer with the passage of time and just round out those jagged edges. That's kind of what we're doing. We're just exploring our limits, but we're doing it very, very kind of softly. We're doing it very, very slowly. We're just acknowledging that there are limits to our knowledge. There are limits to our ability. Again, we can't will those into disappearing. We can't just say, I'm going to close my eyes, clench my butt cheeks, and say, I just want those limits to disappear because I've worked so hard and I've earned it, and my mother says I'm great. And suddenly you're able to paint detail like you've never painted before. No, it doesn't. I mean, that's commendable. That's super nice that you have such commitment with clenching your butt cheeks, but that's not going to do anything. So what we're doing is just we're going to slowly get to that limit, and we're going to go there so much. We're going to reach that limit so much. It's almost like We're going to a door. We're not yelling so that somebody can open it. We're not trying to kick that door open. We're just going to be there every single day until eventually someone's going to say, oh my God, this guy's just so annoying. He's been here for like 6 months every single day. I'm going to let him in because who knows, maybe he's hungry. He needs some breakfast or something. And eventually this door opens up and you are let in. I think that consistency, being annoying at staying at that doorstep for so long, returning to that place for so many days, eventually gets that door open. That is the natural way of advancing. It is not just about pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, because if that was the way, then there's tons of artists out there that work insanely hard, that work really, really hard. And it's very frustrating because they expect results from their painting. They expect their painting to answer back. And that's when you get just so saddened by the act of painting, because you put so much hours and so much effort into it, and then your painting is answering back like, no, this didn't work. You probably painted this for 60 hours, 80 hours, 100 hours, and it just doesn't show. It shows labor and it shows effort. And again, all those things, I commend them and I applaud them. And I feel for all those painters that have put so much energy into their paintings. But there is another way that is not so disheartening. There is another way where your painting just answers back. And the way I think we can go about it, it's like this rubber band that you keep stretching. You try to understand where the limits of that rubber band that's very taut initially, very, very tight and wound up. The more you use it and the more you keep stretching it and pulling it to its limits, the more the rubber band is just going to give in and give in and give in. And suddenly this object, this thing that when you got it seemed like it couldn't transform itself, like it had very rigid qualities to it. Suddenly now it's become more flexible. But it takes time. If you try to push it, if you take that rubber band and you try to really stretch it beyond its limits, the first day you get it, that brand new rubber band, it's going to snap and it's going to break. So painting is the same thing. We just have to explore that limit. Why is it so hard for us to do that? Because we want more. Every time we paint, we want more, and more. We become frustrated because one of the hardest things to do as human beings is acknowledge our shortcomings and own them and almost be proud of them. No, we actually want to act like we're better than what we actually are, that we know more than what we actually know, that we have more experience than the one that we actually have, that we have achieved more than what we actually have. Painting is very ungrateful in that sense, where if you try to cheat it, if you try to impose all these kind of lies onto it, it is going to answer back and it's going to tell you, no, you actually don't know enough and you don't have those achievements and you don't have that experience. And I'm going to make sure that you notice it. And unfortunately, painting being an act that is usually socialized means that all the observers out there are going to notice the same thing, are going to notice that we are lying through our painting. And that's something that's very sad because painting is not meant to be utilized that way. I think one of the hardest things that we have to do when we paint is actually do some self-reflection and say, where am I? What are the limits of my ability? What is the limit of my knowledge? What do I understand in a very solid way? And what do I not know? And when you reflect and you're being honest with yourself and you answer those questions and you know where you're at, just paint within those limits. Just paint within those limits. You are not limiting yourself. That doesn't mean you're just a very sad painter that, became content with the lack of knowledge. No, again, we're celebrating the moment where we're at and we're working within those constraints. We're always going to have constraints as human beings, always. There's always going to be limitations. There's always going to be limits. The happiest human beings are the ones that recognize those limits and understand them not as boundaries that just enclose you and asphyxiate you. No, it's just that I can only go this far. It doesn't matter. But instead of just going to that frontier and just trying to peek over that wall and yearning for, that vast land that lies ahead, that unknown land that you don't have access to. Instead of doing that, you could turn around and look at the place that you do have access to and just play there. That's your playground, and you can be super happy. It's like a sandbox. When we were kids, we could be on a 3 feet by 3 feet sandbox, and it was the most amazing universe in the world. So we have to understand that. Why am I talking about all these things when we're doing a sketch of a pea soup and rice in my mother's house, in my mother's kitchen? Because I think that by working on these paintings and by understanding the wholeness, the bigness, it's very cool because I'm trying to see this expanding universe in the wholeness of the picture, in the global kind of qualities of the picture. But instead of seeing like a limitless universe, instead of seeing this vastness of open space out there, what I'm seeing is all the boundaries that are around wholeness. And they feel totally fine. They feel absolutely fine. When I try to emphasize something, remember, we sacrifice something else. Those sacrifices usually lie beyond those boundaries. Those are the things that we have to leave behind. I think it bears repeating, but we have to be happy with what we have and not yearn what we don't have. We have to. That's something that we have to teach ourselves as human beings. But in painting, it is imperative that we see that and we understand those things. Many, many times we understand a successful painter, a successful artist, as this woman that was able to bridge those gaps, to access all these things that were outside those boundaries, and then has this vast, vast amount of knowledge. And that may be true with like exceptional, extraordinary people. Olga Woznanska, for example, most amazing painter ever. But for us earthly folk, for us, very regular people that just work our asses off, just means that we're going to have to be happy with what we have and working within the options that are available to us. Now, if that seems super sad, it's because we are imposing that sadness onto the nature of those limits. But if we teach ourselves to just say, I have so many options that I could paint for 5 lifetimes, then that is going to be a paradise of painting. Even if it's the tiniest room in the world, even if those constraints and restrictions are super, super close to us, because that's what it feels like when we're starting to paint. We don't know anything. When I say we have to acknowledge those limits of knowledge and experience, when we start, oh my God, they're right there. They are at arm's length. We can totally feel them because we know nothing. And there's nothing more frustrating than saying, I know nothing, and then showcasing our lack of knowledge to everyone with our sucky ass painting. But that's always going to be there. Maybe not at arm's length, but we're always going to be aware of those limitations. And you know what's the coolest part about all of this? That even when those limitations seem that they lie in the horizon, that they're there, there's a wall, miles and miles and miles away, you kind of still deep down tell yourself, I actually know nothing. I still know nothing, and I'm probably going to die knowing nothing. So that's what's actually pretty amazing. So I think that was the lesson of this week. I mean, it's a huge lesson. It has to do with painting, but it has to do with the nature of us as human beings and how we respond to feeling insecure, how we reflect those insecurities, and how we try to hide them, actually. But again, painting is not meant to be used that way. We don't use painting to hide anything. If anything, painting is begging you to be honest. I think that was a gorgeous lesson for this week. So we'll leave it at that. Remember, we're going to be back next week. We try to make the pass from one week to the next in terms of the theme and in terms of the philosophy. We're trying to make it feel very organic, like it makes sense to go from one week to the next. And hopefully, whatever experiences we've attained during this week, we can put them to use or we can put them to test in next week. And maybe we can build upon them, or maybe we can say, wow, that thing that I thought I understood, now I think I understand it differently. So that's awesome also. I guess that's it for this week. We'll see you guys next week. We were super happy to be back, as we always say on Fridays. Danny and I thank you very much for letting us be your company. So have an awesome weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.